Every once in a while, Real Features likes to offer up something for Valentine's weekend, and what could be more romantic than Godzilla 98? Love you too, bro.
Godzilla has been no stranger to the cinema ever since he leapt out of the water in 1954 with his debut movie, in which the titular character proceeded to greet Tokyo with an arrival no one expected nor wanted. Many consider the character as a metaphor, as nature retaliating against man after what happened with the Hiroshima bombing that signaled the end of the Second World War on August 6th, 1945. And I think that's apropos, because the way the character has been depicted, whether as a good guy, heel, or a tweener, if you take him head on, well, you're not gonna like the result.
The franchise had produced 22 movies from Toho long before the 1998 movie came to pass.
TriStar had acquired the rights in 1992 and did plan out a trilogy. Jan de Bont had a very specific vision of Godzilla taking on a shape-shifting alien known as the Griffon. He left the project after disagreements with regards to the budget. In came Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin. The two had brought Independence Day to the big screen 2 years prior, so they had a track record for producing a summer blockbuster. But could they jumpstart Godzilla's Hollywood career just as they did for Will Smith?
Has this aged well, or is this going to be yet another reason for Kaiju Noir to seek therapy? Well, time to find out as we head back to the rebellious 90s for Godzilla.
When you take into account that Godzilla has been around for 44 years by that point, most people had an idea of what to expect from a movie about the character. So, when Roland Emmerich took on the task of directing an American adaptation of The King of the Monsters, you had to question how faithful the movie would be to its original Japanese counterpart. It stays true to the character's origin, with local reptilian wildlife being subjected to radiation due to testing with nuclear bombs that alters the DNA of an unhatched iguana egg. I do appreciate how it shows the after effects of man's interference with nature, as radiation had caused the Chernobyl earthworms to grow 17% bigger due to the radiation spread from the plant that exploded in the 1980s.
And it's the same with Godzilla. It's nature retaliating with a lizard being genetically altered, wreaking havoc.
The other part that I like is that of responsibility from Philippe, played by Jean Reno. In the essence that his country caused the mess with the nuclear tests in the Pacific, and he feels responsible in cleaning it up. That, and I like the part where Audrey Timmons summons the courage and self-respect for herself to tell her boss and news anchor, Mr. Kamen, where to go after being her research assistant for so long.
The type of boss he is just creepy. He's trying to have dinner over at her place even though he's married.
Also, considering that he's played by Harry Shearer, I could think of a great comeback when she refuses to have dinner with him.
So, have dinner with me tonight.
I can't.
Release the hounds.
Other than that, the dialogue delivery feels a little less than convincing. Now, to be fair to some of the actors, this isn't their fault, as the dialogue that they give Broderick and Patillo really does a disservice. It just feels like it's phoned in, as opposed to someone like Hank Azaria, who's an expert in line delivery considering he plays Moe in The Simpsons.
I do have one question though.
Why did the chopper pilot not just simply fly up when the G-Man was chasing him before being swallowed up whole from beneath? I appreciate that the adrenaline would have been spiking, but I think it's established that the creature can't fly, so he would more than likely have been safe. Also, a flying Godzilla, that's scary.
That's a lot of fish.
Well, what do you expect? He's a growing boy. It's not like you could give him just one small pizza pie.
It is a little awkward when you see the World Trade Center in the background of Manhattan, and then hearing Harry Shearer mention,
in what city officials are describing as the worst act of destruction since the World Trade Center bombing.
Now, for context, he was referring to what occurred in 1993. But watching this in a post-9/11 world does leave you tugging on the collar, Simpsons style. But the movie was made in a more innocent time in 1998, to where the attacks had not even occurred yet. The best segments of the flick are when Godzilla is on screen and to the preludes where you see glimpses of him, from the attack on the fishing ship, to his spikes poking out of the river, and to when he first lands in New York. The two best segments are the initial chase after he was fed, and the penultimate scene with the creature chasing Nick and company, trying to avenge the loss of his brood, and he gets caught in the cables of the Brooklyn Bridge before the character ultimately meets his fate at the hands of fatal missiles.
Even though in real life, a creature of Godzilla's size wouldn't be tolerated as it would be seen as a threat to humanity. Yet at the same time, I kind of felt bad for the guy.
He was just an animal doing as he knew best, and all he wanted to do was raise a family. It's no different than what you would see with most other animals in the animal kingdom.
And the ending left the door open for a possible sequel, with the remaining egg hatching before it faded to the credits.
To sum it up, the action sequences are fine, but the writing left a lot to be desired, with actors not being able to bring their best due to the material and the way they were directed.
The movie has a real ensemble cast, so I'm gonna be keeping it short and concise. Matthew, why do you keep picking roles you're clearly wrong for?
Okay, I'm gonna be nice here. He's a good actor. But he just seems so lost in not being able to find the character that he's supposed to be playing. Ian Ziering, who some of you may remember as Vinny from Biker Mice from Mars, would go on to play Nico Totopoulos in the animated series that would continue the story, and he found the character that he was playing, in which he makes Nico strong, confident, and someone not to be messed with. I don't see that with Broderick in this. One moment that comes to mind is where he sees Audrey before he leaves for the airport, and the level of disapproval is so underwhelming that he just comes across as so restrained. If someone had stolen my tapes and got me kicked off a project, I'd be pissed.
Language.
Not now, Cap. I'm not in the mood.
Jean was one of the very few actors that was legitimately trying. He put a lot of energy into his role as the French Secret Service agent, to where you can believe his performance as he's confident, calm, and determined. This man is no stranger to playing smarmy and antagonistic characters, considering his long run as C. Montgomery Burns in The Simpsons. He plays a good opportunist when he steals Audrey Timmons' story, in which he reveals the origins of Godzilla. Vicky's role is somewhat smaller than the rest of the cast, but she has a snarky and sarcastic personality and has eyes for Nick. And she's a redhead. This is another example of a pretty face with little to no talent. Either that, or the direction she was given was less than helpful. She actually received a Razzie for Worst Supporting Actress. And it shows.
She just phones her performance in with no conviction.
He was very believable as a news cameraman with a lot of moxie. He has great chemistry with his on-screen wife, Arabella Field.
My life sucks. Oh, please. Your life doesn't suck. His life sucks.
Because I'm married to you.
One of the prominent characters that's there from the beginning that Nick reports to in the army. He portrays a gruff, hardened army general that just doesn't seem to have time for anything. He would also reprise his role vocally in Godzilla the series.
Nancy Cartwright even has a small role as Cayman's secretary. Here's what I have to say about the visual effects regarding the creature's design. I'm probably one of the very few people that was okay with it.
For me, I could take this look of Godzilla from Centropolis Effects with credibility. He was fast, powerful, agile, and had the physical body that made it look believable that this force of nature would be formidable as well as towering over everyone. Whereas with previous incarnations in the Toho movies, he was depicted as a dinosaur that was bombarded with radiation. In this, he is depicted as an unspecified iguana in the French Polynesian islands that were exposed to radiation during the nuclear testing in the 1960s.
Patrick Tatopoulos, who some of his movie credits include the creature designer on Independence Day, the creature designer for Underworld, and the designer for the Batmobile in Batman v Superman, was brought in by Roland Emmerich to redesign the creature, and his only instruction from Roland Emmerich was he had to be incredibly fast.
And the CG looked photoreal, to where I could have the suspension of disbelief that he was in the scenes for real. And the same can be said for the consistency for the way it left large and deep footprints on the islands it attacked and on the streets of New York. something I felt lacked in the Jurassic Park movies. Every one of the creatures' appearances are at night, and it's either out in the rain, underwater, or underground in the subway. And that tends to help CG in one of two ways. One, adding to the atmosphere, and two, the light at night hides bad CG.
You know, this is something that aided Jurassic Park 5 years prior as the tropical storm added to the atmosphere when the T-Rex broke out of its paddock.
Speaking of that, I felt that there were elements with the CG that was either inspired by Jurassic Park or just straight up plagiarizing it. The general movement of Godzilla during the last car chase reminded me very much of how the T-Rex moved in the first Jurassic Park, and to even aping the velociraptors peering in through the kitchen door window. I'm all for being inspired and offering something to the world where you can see the inspiration, but not have it be a straight up copy. And this, sadly, was the latter.
Aside from that discrepancy, the CG still holds up. David Arnold had the task of creating a score that would be exciting and terrifying, but add a little majestic essence to the movie.
Probably one of my favourite pieces is when you see the first full reveal of the creature as he exits out of the sewer and comes face to face with Nick, and then proceeds to make his way to the fish. The score has this adrenaline-charged pace that gets the pulse going anytime the chases are with either the army chasing the creature, or the creature chasing our heroes. Even though it's played sparingly, Jamiroquai's Deeper Underground can be heard in the background when Animal gets back to his home and his wife had invited people in off the street.
It should be noted that to this day, Deeper Underground is still Jamiroquai's only UK #1.
Plus, if you see the music video, even though Godzilla appears briefly, JK is doing some of his best footwork considering he was acting out to a green screen. It also featured Puff Daddy's Come With Me, which didn't relate to the movie nor the kind of soundtrack that other artists were contributing, like with Jamiroquai's Deeper Underground, and with the Wallflowers doing a cover of David Bowie's We Could Be Heroes. But Puff Daddy was not known for being subtle, so why should this be any different?
In conclusion, the score is amazing with the soundtrack despite having one miss to otherwise a good album.
The movie grossed a profit of $379 million against a budget of $130 to $150 million. In 2021, that would be worth $612 million. While it did turn a profit, it was seen as a failure due to the negative reception it received from critics, fans, and casual fans alike. Roger Ebert gave the movie 1.5 stars, citing that intelligent thought need not be required when watching this movie, and he acknowledged that the character of Mayor Ebert was a jab at him from Emmerich and Dean Devlin for his negative reviews of Stargate and Independence Day. Kenpachiro Satsuma, who had played Godzilla in the Toho films, walked out of a screening saying, and I quote, "It's not Godzilla. It doesn't have his spirit." Sony were keen on pressing ahead with a sequel as part of a planned trilogy, of which Roland Emmerich persuaded them not to due to the negativity it received, and they later toyed with the idea of rebooting it anyway, where it would disassociate itself from the '98 movie. An animated series kicked off in the fall of 1998 that continued from where the movie left off, with a slight retcon to where Nick, now voiced by Ian Ziering, ventured down into the sewers to where he was present for the hatching of the only remaining egg, to where it would bond with Nick due to being soaked in egg fluid, and it presumes that Nick is his parent to where it acts more like a faithful pet, responding to when Nick needs him. This was better received as it was acting as more of a protector to humanity, being somewhat closer to Godzilla of the Toho movies. There wouldn't be another Western Godzilla release until 2014's Godzilla with Aaron Taylor-Johnson and Bryan Cranston, with a much more faithful take on the King of the Monsters that would spawn their own cinematic universe, known as the Monsterverse.
Depending on whom you speak to, the movie has been enjoyed on VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, and now 4K since 1998. I'm MJ Knight, and we went back to New York for Godzilla 1998. You know, every once in a while, Real Features likes to offer up something for Valentine's weekend, and what could be more romantic than Godzilla 98? Love you too, bro. One more, but without the Randy Orton thing. Wait, Randy Orton versus Godzilla. It's like attempts to RKO halitosis breaths. And there's Godzilla. That came out of nowhere. And there's Raiden. I endorse this. Hey, but G-Man, just don't ask Randy Orton to shake your hand. Everyone knows what I mean. Time to find out as we head back to the rebellious 90s for Godzilla. One more time, but without the head tilt. Like too much like Commander Data. Data, I'm going to send you back in time to face Godzilla. But, Captain, I don't see how this can be beneficial. Why not send Wesley Crusher? No. We've made too many memes out of him. Shut up, Wesley. Has this aged well, or is this going to be yet another reason for Kaiju Noir to seek therapy? I can already see Liz holding the sign, all signs point to yes, and then Kaiju's like, how could you? There's a bleeper. Depending on whom you speak to, the movie has been enjoyed on VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, and 4K since 1998. I'm MJ Knight, and we went back to New York for Godzilla 1998. That's good, but you kinda left it light on the D. Not like, Vegeta D, But take new Vitamin Vegeta D for all your Super Saiyan needs. Ooh, now I can finally blast off against Kakarot. Vegeta, don't you refer to the D as something else? Shut up, Kakarot! You're too young to know about this. So, I'm younger than you, yet I became levels of Super Saiyan before you. Must you hold this against me? Curse you, Kakarot!